Hey, hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John. This is episode 294. Each and every week, I sit down and answer your questions. If you have questions, please send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I like the questions this week. They're fun. Some of them are maybe obvious to some of you, but remember, when people ask questions, it's my job to make sure I answer them fully and completely. And there's one or two that just kind of made me laugh, but let's get started. Our first question is from Sam. And Sam is a 31-year-old male, 6'2", and 95 kilos. So for my American audience, he's about 206. My current main goal is to keep under 95K. That's a good goal. At 6'2", that's a really good goal. While also training for strength, along with good health and longevity. I would eventually love to work towards the game changer status in your strength standards article. Those are good, solid numbers. Age 31, completely doable. I'm currently halfway through easy strength 5 days a week and loving it. Well, good. Just a segue real quick here. Easy strength and the armor building formula are kind of my two pillar programs for most adults. And it's interesting because one program is 5 days a week, easy strength, and the other one is 2 to 3 times a week, depending how you do it, with kettlebells and or barbells in the armor building formula and armor building complex. And it's interesting because I think both of them are really valuable, and I think both ideas are really good. But it's a good reminder, folks, that as you go through your training life, there's going to be 5-day-a-week training programs, and there's going to be 2-day-a-week training programs and everything in between. But the idea is to keep on keeping on. So let's get to his question. He works 30 to 40 hours a week on shifts that vary daily in a sedentary job. He also has a 9-month-old baby, so my sleep is not great when it's all mixed together. He has a good home gym with Olympic weights, bench, squat rack, dumbbells, kettlebells, which is a massive help, in saving time for gym commutes, etc. Am I being unrealistic expecting to be able to hit my goal numbers or even close to them in the next year with life demands? I always find it more motivating to train if I've got something to work towards. Yeah, it's funny. I do too. I agree with you, Sam. I think now let's talk about goals before we talk about this. So, I have that inner circle and I have a goals course. I'm a big believer in something called goal achievement because I had this conversation the other day with somebody about goal setting. You can just sit back and reel off a whole bunch of things. I want to play in the NFL. I want to make the Olympic team. I want to be a ballerina. I want a pony. Of course, I always end up with I want a pony because of those 4, that's probably the one I can get you. Just saying goals isn't the same as achieving goals. And what I've discovered, with my work in the inner circle and certainly at the forum over there on Dan John University, that people who achieve their goals almost always are also in alignment with their values. Now, I know alignment with your values has become a bit of a cliche in the last few years, but it doesn't make it not true. So the first thing, Sam, as a father and working this job and everything, you're doing the right thing. You're taking good care of your family. You're still exercising, which is just wonderful for your children, your child, maybe even your children later on. So whenever I get a question from somebody who's working full time, got children, doing their best, I always figure at some level you get what your values are. So that actually is a big help, knowing what your values are. Now I have worksheets and we do one-on-one and we have discussions about making sure people are in alignment with their values. But sometimes, you just don't even have to ask and somebody is in alignment. And I feel that way about you. Now, getting the goals in a year, the biggest issues, you didn't tell me what your numbers were. If say like your goal is to bench press body weight, that's pretty reasonable for almost any male I work with within a relatively short amount of time. To be able to military press your body weight, a lot of it now depends on the, your torso and your arm length and a bunch of other factors, and if you're born to press or not. But again, I think pressing your body weight is an achievable goal for a lot of the audience. Snatching your body weight, Olympic style, for a lot of the audience might still be a, reasonable goal. So I think the Sleepless in Seattle goals are good. The one about, you're going to set up, you didn't mention you had a trap bar, but, you can load your trap bar up with double body weight, pick it up and go for a short jaunt. It doesn't have to be very far. I mean, that might be something you can do today. Some of the other goals might take more time and effort. The biggest thing I'd like you to think about, if you're doing easy strength, let easy strength nudge your way through the process. You probably want to test your exercises, and I got to be careful here because I don't know where you are on the numbers, but say like you have a goal of doing 10 pull-ups, okay? And right now you test yourself the other day and you did 3. I think it's still reasonable. You can get to 10, especially at your body comp. But it might have to be something you're going to have to work on a little bit harder than, say, the farmer walk goal or the press goal. So what I'd like you to do is figure out where you're gapping. Where's the weakness on that? And my idea on that, even though you're doing easy strength, I would like you to add a little practice session in to whatever your weakest one is. And I have no feedback on this, but let's just guess, because most people is to pull up. So maybe at the start and finish of your easy strength workouts, you do pull-ups. Keep them in easy strength, never fail. And I don't necessarily even mean double them, but I want you to get a little extra practice, greasing the groove on it. But yes, I think it's reasonable. I think it's feasible. And the other issue, the nice thing about a 9-month-old child, and I don't know how old the child is now that you're hearing this because, there's a gap. But once you get through teething, babies are wonderful, then they teeth. Toddlers are wonderful, and then they learn how to walk and touch things and break things. Every age of a child is wonderful with that other issue of what makes them cry and be sour. As I always joke, little girls are marvelous until middle school. But with the baby, as they start to establish a good sleeping pattern, I think it's going to make a huge impact on how you train too. And only people who have had kids understand that sentence. But my best to you, and good luck. And that was a fun question. James has a question. James asks this. He's finding my podcasts and books has been transformative for this 56-year-old former bodybuilder. And he has 2 questions. The first one is, do you journal your daily activity now at this point in your history? James, I've been keeping my journal since 1971, and I work on mine every single day. I keep my notes from my inner circle in there, my financial intensive, my financial community, my workouts. It's got my to-do list. I've got a lot of circles and asterisks when things are good or things are bad. And yeah, I think, if there was a tool, I'm not sure there's a piece of equipment better than your own training journal, your training diary, because it gives you your past, your present, and your future. I can see, I'll go back in my old journals and I'll look at lifts I made in training and go, holy cow. Or I'll look at, competition marks and go, where did that come from? But the thing is, then I go in and I start looking at the workouts building up to it, the training ideas building up to it, the people helping me at the time, the good things, the bad things in my life that all shape me. Yeah. I would like to hopefully keep a journal until I literally until the day I die, I guess. There's no nice way to say that sentence. But I'm hoping to keep it up. Now, what happens after I'm dead, I don't know. I get the sense that it'll be in that, I worry that it'll be in that massive dumpster in the front of the house. But yeah, of course I keep a training journal. And, you know, there's a phrase I use a lot. The person who coaches themselves has an idiot for a client. I also feel that way about a person who trains who doesn't keep a journal, a training diary, who doesn't keep a training diary is just totally missing the point. So yes. And question number 2, James asks, what is your opinion on alcohol consumption? Yeah, I do it, sure. Now listen, I mean, obviously, you know, I have my own personal tragic stories involving alcohol, regrettably. But the most important thing I think most of my listeners should do is go calories in, calories out, and look at how many calories and how easy it is to get those calories from drinking alcohol. Pinot Noir is about 230 calories a glass. Irish whiskey is 70 calories per shot, and I think Guinness is 150 calories per glass or can, which is relatively low. And the nice thing about Guinness, for me at least, I don't know how, I've done it proudly, but you know, if you drink 3 Guinness, I think 3 Guinness is about my limit. I mean, and I'd be forcing down the second 2. You're looking at 450 calories, which is, you know, something you can, you know, reasonably put into an occasional evening. The issue, just like chips, and you know, whether they're at a Mexican restaurant where they give you those you know, the triangle chips, the tortilla chips, or a bag of Fritos or a bag of whatever it is, those calories add up fast, and that's the issue with so many foods, is sometimes you don't notice the caloric density going in. I have no issues with alcohol. I have many funny stories about, you know, I used to always joke that when certain people drink, I look better. That's kind of something I've used many times. But if you're looking for body composition, you have to sit down and fold your arms and make and look at it as a big kid decision. Now, you know, if you're looking like $1 million and you're doing all this stuff, and you know, you've got the 8-pack abs and you've got the barnyard wide shoulders, you know, go down the cliche line that we have, and all you do is, you know, just go in the gym and train. I think you're a little unbalanced. The old style of unbalanced, not like you're crazy, but you're spending too much time in the gym and not on the other aspects of life. Obviously, you know, your mileage may vary on this. Whenever I talk about drinking coffee, I get emails and an occasional text message from people I know who think that coffee is the worst thing you can put in your body because that's what their religion says, or alcohol, that's what the religion says. But it's got the only thing I would say is just make sure you understand the calories. And for God's sakes, if you're drinking, you know, be a big kid. You know, anytime I go downtown Salt Lake, now partially it's because parking's terrible, but I always Uber. Even if I'm only having 1 or 2 glasses of wine, I always Uber, because I don't want to be the person that kills somebody, you know, because I'm an idiot. Okay, it's an interesting question, and I hope I did a good job answering it. So thank you, James. Two good questions. So our next question is from Michael. Michael says this: we're having a great time consistently applying so many of your principles. Training for me and my partners is chugging forward. We're mastering little and often over the long haul. If it's important, do it every day. That's great. And reaping the benefits of incorporating loads of loaded carries. I wanted to clue you in on a variation of your hornies, Carrie. Make sure I explain that for those who aren't reading it. A horny is when you grab a kettlebell by the horns and you walk with it, about like this. And it's a great, as you walk, the bell moves up and down. It makes your ab wall contract. We were playing around with this and found that walking forwards and backwards adds a level of stabilizing anaconda strength that was remarkable. We paired this up with some front squat variations and were thrilled how the backward hornies drill zipped up the chin, sternum, and zipper line to make the squat movement much stronger. As always, thanks for all your content and contributions. We appreciate everything you do and continue to lift, learn, and get stronger, even as we approach our 6th decade of life. Well, Michael, thank you so much. So I love it when people think for themselves. I love it when people share the ideas. So Michael, much appreciated. So if all you have is one kettlebell, I think there's value in the suitcase carry, the waiter carry, the suitcase carry. For those of you just listening, I put my hands in the wrong place. The suitcase carry and the rack carry. But there's also great value in the horn walk. Now, one other thing about the horn walk is if you do the heartbeat with it as you walk, it's pretty good. So Michael, the only thing I'd like you to think about is I'd like you to do the heartbeats backwards also. But gentle listeners, he said something that was important. Walking backwards with load tightened up his front squat. And to me, that's when obvious to me that Michael truly understands this idea of getting zipped up with the chin sternum zipper line. It should be straight. And that's one of the reasons I like loaded carries so much. Now, listen, they're great for work capacity, no question about that. No question about that at all. But they're also really good for teaching the body to have that stone feeling that Stu McGill talks about, or the anaconda strength that I use. The idea of like you have that ability to lock on and squeeze. So, Michael, thank you. Backward walks. You know what? On Saturday I do. That's when I do my extra. I call them grade 8. That's my day. I do my sprints. Okay. Once again, on my sprints, I start slow and I ease up. Okay. That's the joke because I don't ever really sprint. But I'm gonna try that this weekend, and I'm gonna maybe put that in my pocket as a great idea. So Michael and anybody else who's kicked in great ideas over the years, thank you so much. It really, really makes a difference. Got a question from Kyle. For the longest time, I was following a typical bro split with plenty of horizontal pressing, bicep curls, etc. Wow, how unusual. You only summarized 99.9% of what I see in gyms. Though I did also lots of pulling and squatting, I never progressed with the vertical press and the hinge. My deadlift was always strong, and I certainly can hinge, but never gave it the same attention I gave squatting. Do you see any downside on focusing on the vertical press and the hinge for a season or two to bring those movements up after neglecting them for so long? Furthermore, what is your standard for the single arm press? I'm 100 kilos, 220, 6 foot tall, 35-year-old man. At 220, I wouldn't mind seeing you do the beast, the 48 kilo. Certainly, I would expect that you'd be able to press the 40, the 88 pounder. The jump between the 40 and the 48 might be huge for you, but I know now they make 44s. But for me, for the single arm, if you're in that 220 range, I'd like to see you press, the beast. But getting back to the question of the vertical press and the hinge, behind me, just on this shelf here, I've got Pavel's Power to the People. And honestly, what I liked about Power to the People, I didn't like him using the side press as a lift. Personally, I wish he'd just used the standard kettlebell single arm press or the bench press or the incline or the military. But there is great value in the press deadlift, the press hinge relationship. I look over my career, and of course, I kind of feel like I was born to hinge and press. I mean, I was always very good at those two movements without any training. The pull, especially the pull up, chin up, oh, terrible. The squat, oh. I think that's why I invented the goblet squat, and partially because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't squat very well, and I just kept, I floundered teaching it and then now I feel very competent doing it. I like the idea of press hinge. I mean, look at, if all you have is a single kettlebell and you did single kettlebell presses and swings, that's a pretty good workout. If you have a barbell and all you did was deadlift and military deadlift and any member of the press family, that's pretty good. In fact, I made some real progress in the 90s just doing basically those two lifts 2 days a week, a lot of weight on the bar. So I'm a big fan of this idea. Folks, anytime you have a gap and the hardest thing is if you have a gap. So for me, it was squatting. And you just keep trying to work around it and not around it, avoid it and ignore it. The longer you put that off, the longer that gap just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of like putting off going to the dentist or putting off going to the medical doctor. You've got this weird lump and you're afraid to go to the doctor. Well, the longer you put that off, it's not going to get better. You got some weird tooth issue and you put it off because you don't like going to the dentist. Putting it off a long time is probably a lot more expensive than taking care of it early. I like the idea of bringing up those two lifts. I think you're going to find that and by the way, if you're a kettlebell only person, if you just did single arm presses and swings, give that a run, or do the little Danny John workout when I was 14. Just do for your hinge, do the snatch. So clean and press and snatch. I mean, that's a good program. A few people I know, because of conversations, are really running into this idea, and I like it a lot. So yeah, I like this, and do it. And if you just have barbells or just however you do it, mix and match, play around with some ideas. I think it's a great idea. Thank you. Okay. And by the way, easy strength is sort of based on the idea of pushing the military vertical press and the deadlift up. And when people do that, good things seem to happen on the field of play. So thank you. And that's a fun, good question. We have a question from Kenneth, and it's another. So what I thought was funny today is we have a number of people writing in today who are all about the same age and all about the same height and weight. I thought that was just kind of interesting. So let's get going. Kenneth says this: I'm about to turn 40. I want to set a goal to be able to strict overhead press my body weight by the time I'm 45 while minimizing injury risk to get there. A little about me. I'm 6'2", 205 pounds, basically 95 kilos, and I have a 34-inch waist. So, dude, you're rocking it, man. And I feel content that with what I'm doing on the diet, cardio, sleep sides of the equation. I have a long and consistent history with competitive soccer, tennis, ping pong, and distance running. I just realized, though, that I'm not strong. Okay. I thought about this for the longest time, but to hear some of the numbers you and your listeners throw around seems crazy to me. I just finished your barbell armor building formula program, and that's available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore or armorbuildingformula.com. With continuous clean and press, progressing up to 8 front squats at the end at the minimum recommended weights, 45, 55, and 65, and I loved it. Now, given that I haven't done overhead presses above 100 pounds, how do I reach over 200 pounds in 5 years? Just add 20 pounds a year? Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Well, yeah, that sounds, well, actually, that's kind of how you're going to do it. The issue, real quick, is you don't really know what your max is. I am working on the next I don't know, I don't know what to call it, a book or whatever, on the armor building formula. And one of the things I'm going to have in there is a whole bunch of numbers for the barbell people. And I'm going to share this with you, and I just want you to think about it. You're going to have to press. You're going to have to get a lot of presses in. Now, when I got my best clean and press, I was doing the simplest program ever. I mean, I would clean and press singles 1 day a week and just work up to a comfortable max. And on the other day, I did 3 sets of 8 with a minute rest, and that's how I got my volume. What I realized working with other people who tried it, I was kind of born to press, so it was pretty easy for me. So I thought to myself, and what I decided to do, and I want you to experiment with this in a couple of workouts. So let's just take the numbers you have, 45, 55, and 65. What I'd like you to try to do is on day 1, maybe take the 55 pounds and do 8 reps with it. Just clean 8 reps, and the 8 reps being clean, press style. Put the weight down, get a rest, and then put the 45 on. So take the 5s off, put the 45 on, and do a set of 13 clean, press. A set of 13. So 8 with 1 weight, and drop down and do 13s. I'd like you to get some rounds of that. Now, why I like this number is that's 21 reps. It's all Fibonacci numbers. That's why I like it. But I'd like you to play around with this idea of, and what I want you to slowly do is nudge that 8 and that 13 up. And at the same time, nudge up the total rounds you do. I would like you to build up to 5 rounds of 8 with that, say, 55 as the example, and the 13 at 45 as the example. If you do that for 5 rounds, you're at 105 reps, and that's a lot of work. And at the same time, so I wouldn't mind seeing you do this. Let's just say you do this 3 times a week, okay? One day, let's go day 1, you do 3 rounds, 8 13s. Wednesday, you do 2 rounds with the 8 and 13. And on the other day, the Saturday, you try to get the 5 rounds. Over time, I want you to nudge that weight up. I would do it this way. Maybe in the 2nd or 3rd week, you feel that, on the 2-round day, that load is too light. So on the 2-round day, you jump to 65 for 8 and 55 for 13. If you get those, slowly, first you do it the 2-round day, slowly. Maybe you have to repeat that a couple times. Then add it to the 3rd round, those heavier weights. And then over time, get to all 5 rounds, and then nudge that up. Now, here's what I want you to keep thinking of. I would like you to do this for 8 weeks, 12 weeks. Lots of volume, lots of presses, but just nudging and getting the reps in. Those are high reps, I know. Maybe at the end of a 2-month period, or if you just feel like doing it, test yourself and see how much you can do on a single. You can either do it off the rack, or you can do clean or press. I don't care either way. I'd like to see you do that. I'd like to see you do that for a while. I'm thinking 3 months, 4 months, where you're just nudging up all that volume over time. After that, we can start playing around with a few more days where we do singles and doubles, and maybe even planning some days where you try to peak and go for it. The nice thing about this idea is that at your height and weight, which is, 34-inch waistline is awesome, is that we're not going to be beating the hell out of you, and we're going to give you a chance to build up that volume over time. Now, after a 6-month period, and say we test, and we find out that your best, I'm guessing you're at 135, 145 on a max. Then all of a sudden we realize we only have to go 55 pounds in the next couple of years, which is a lot more doable. To get there, we're going to focus on periods of volume followed by periods of more intensity. It's the most ancient way to get strong there is: volume, intensity, volume, intensity, volume, intensity. The reason I want those higher reps is that the weirdest thing about the press, the overhead press, is you need to do volume to make it work. I wish I had another answer. Some kind of little trick or magic wand, a Harry Potter thing, and poof, increaso the presto, but you got to get the volume in on pressing. And you have to press at least 3 days a week to get the press to go up for people who aren't good naturally at pressing. That was a surprisingly short episode. Things have been busy for us over here at danjohnuniversity.com lately, but we've been doing our best to get these episodes out to you, and with all the other changes and upgrades we're doing. So remember, if you have a question, send your question to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. Every week I sit down here and I answer your questions, and it's an honor. So until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.